Number one is managing posture. Now, when it comes to managing posture, it's going to be different for different people. It's not a one size fits all like low back strengthening may suggest or low back strength stretching may suggest. So, what do we mean by managing posture? We're going to go through two examples of what managing posture means and why it's different for different people and how it influences rehabilitation of lower back pain. And example one, we're going to go through a condition of the lower back called Barstrup syndrome. The second example is a disc herniation. Now, these are, in some respects, these are opposite ends of the spectrum. So it kind of goes to suggest that it's different. It has to be different for different people. So if you're just using a one-size-fits-all type of solution, like strengthening or stretching may suggest, then you're probably going in either in the wrong direction or you're just going down a dead-end road. So Barstrup syndrome, what is it? It's a condition of the facet joints. So the facet joints, you have the vertebral body, and then what sticks off the back of them, you have a spinous process and two transverse processes that stick off either side. Now, between vertebra and between the facet joints or the processes of each vertebra are known as facet joints. Now, when a disc loses height, those facet joints get squashed together, because if you lose height of a joint, obviously the vertebral bodies are going to get close together. Hence, the joints on the back of them are going to get close together. This puts a compression on the joint and inflames the joint. It gets exacerbated when performing extension movements. So if you're in a neutral spine, they're going to get close together. But if you then go and extend the spine, you squash it even more. So it's exacerbated as you extend the spine. So if you're going into postures where you extend the spine, you're exacerbating the very problem that you're trying to solve. You can also get it in rotation, so rotate, and lateral flex, so flexing to the side. So if you are diagnosed with something like Barstrup syndrome, then you're going to have to go through a process of managing your posture. Now, again, what a lot of people do is they throw low back pain under one umbrella and say, just do this exercise, just strengthen your lower back, or just do these stretches. Unfortunately, those types of solutions to something like Barstrup syndrome isn't going to be as effective if you don't manage your posture. So we've got Barstrup syndrome, which is where the facet joints get compressed, and if you extend your spine, it's going to exacerbate the problem. And then you can get other movements involved, rotation and lateral flexion being two of them. Example 2 is a disc herniation. Now, a disc herniation is caused by flexion of the spine and more and sped up by loaded flexion of the spine. And if you keep repeating that, it's going to fatigue the walls that sit around the gelatinous fluid on the middle of the disc, and eventually they are going to bulge. Now, what movement does that? Be it an exercise, be it flexing the spine when you're lifting a deadlift, being it sat on a seat at work or at home on the sofa, in a car, all of that, or lifting up shopping bags from the floor with a flexed spine, all of that is going to contribute to an eventual disc herniation. I'm not going to go into the causes of those, but as a means of understanding the the posture, it's generally flexion. So you've got bar strap syndrome, which is extension, which is one type of injury, and you've got disc bulge, which is flexion, which is a different type of injury and a different type of posture. So the opposite end, you've got one extension and one flexion. So we've got back pain, but we've got two different types of causes. Now, with disc herniations, you can also include rotation, because again, it fatigues the rings of the sort of the wall of the disc. So those fatigue and make it easier for the fluid to move through. So you've got flexion and rotation for disc herniation and extension and rotation for bar strap syndrome. So you've got those two injuries which are completely different. One's extension, one's flexion. So we need to be able to manage that posture. Now, this doesn't mean you've got to walk around like a robot in a neutral spine for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that we need to respect our spine and our movement enough to spend time not in that extension posture if we've got bar strap syndrome. It doesn't mean we can't go back to extending the spine, but we need to certainly minimize it, adapt our movement. When we talk about disc herniations, we need to respect the spine, we need to respect the injury, and we need to not flex the spine as much, because again, we're only going to be causing the problem that we're trying to solve. So hopefully from those two examples, you can see that managing posture is going to be a part of your rehabilitation, and depending on the type of injury that it is, depends on the type of management that's required. So we have to go through that assessment process to be able to understand that. And by going to my online How to Overcome Lower Back Pain workshops, you can start that process. You've got 3 workshops to work through and a manual, which you can then start actually applying it to yourself. So you can get to that by clicking the link in the below. But yes, you have to manage posture to be able to overcome lower back pain, depending on the injury that you have.